Hi everybody, it's Onyx here and I'm bringing you part 2 of What If Deku Had Full Counter. I would like to say thank you guys so much for the love and support you guys have shown on the video. In 13 hours alone, we managed to get to 2.4k views. So if you guys can get this video to at least 200 likes, I'll make third part as fast as I can. And without further ado, I'll let you guys enjoy it. We're going to continue off where we last left off in part 1, as Izuku was helping Nejire up as they both interchanged names. While Izuku was talking with Nejire, the bell rang for them to signal that they both had to go back to class, as Nejire walked the opposite direction from Izuku because, remember, they're a couple of years apart, so of course they'll be in different classes. As that day went on as normal, as they did PE, sports, more or less, as they did history and their IT lessons, which they would have learned at a younger age. Since Izuku lost his father, he was really hesitant of making really good friends because he had to move schools every so often when people figured out who this kid was, because it was public knowledge for who Izuku was, because he was saved by the number 1 and number 2 heroes, and they would have probably caught it on camera. As Izuku was walking out of the school grounds to go back home, as a blue-haired girl walked up to him, nudging him on his shoulder, saying, "Hello, and thank you very much for helping me," the blue-haired girl said. As Izuku would have just retaliated, saying, "You're welcome," Izuku said, stuttering in on his words, as Izuku just decided to walk, with Nejire just following him around like a lost puppy, just trying to get his attention and try to start a conversation with him, as Izuku just decided to speed up and almost started to run, as Nejire just used her quirk just to try and speed up because she's not the most athletic person. The moment Izuku started to run though, Izuku picked up more pace more and more than what he would thought he would be running at, because since Izuku was put into the protection of the heroes, most of the top 10 heroes and below decided to train Izuku on his combat skills and his physical shape, as Nejire was still struggling to catch up, as she just stopped to catch her breath because her quirk relies on stamina. "Please wait up, Izuku," she shouted out loud, as Izuku just continued to run down the street, as Izuku lost her finally, as Izuku just sat there panting to catch some air, as once Izuku caught his breath of fresh air, he decided to walk all the way home, with 2 pro heroes trailing behind him to make sure he was fine. The moment Izuku arrived home, he was greeted with a tight hug from his mother. "Izuku, where have you been? You're late," she said in a very worried tone. "Mom, I'm fine, Izuku said. "Don't have to worry about me. I've got pro heroes trailing me regularly. It's fine," Izuku said, as Inko started to warm up and say, "Okay then, do not arrive home late tomorrow then," she said in a very worried tone, as we do a time skip for another 2 years, with Izuku being his final year in primary, more or less, in the UK. As for Japan, I have no bloody clue. This marks the day Izuku is going to be in his first day of Izuku going to his junior high school, as without Izuku realizing it, Izuku was going to be in the same school as a certain somebody. As Izuku was walking into his first classroom of the day, Izuku was greeted with 2 people saying good morning to him, this being Mina Ashido and Kaminari, as they both introduced themselves really giddy and happy for them to meet new people, as Izuku would have greeted them back and just go straight to his seat, as Izuku just sat there, as the teacher walked in introducing himself to all of the students, as the teacher would have said to them for them all to just have like a 2 or 3 hour break so they could walk around the campus and get used to it, as all of the students would have agreed to this, as they would have all walked outside. The moment Izuku walked outside of the classroom, Kaminari and Mina both walked to him, introducing themselves to him, but Izuku would have been trying to be distant with them, but they would be forcing themselves on him. "Not in that way, you perverted bastards," as Izuku just gave in, and Izuku just walked with them for the rest of the hour, as a bell rang to signal for the classes to be over, as Izuku was walking down a hall with Mina Ashido and Kaminari. Izuku saw a blue-headed girl walking out of her class. "Oh shit," Izuku said in a very worried tone, as Izuku would have tried to cut a corner, but he would have still been noticed by this blue-haired, light-haired girl. As we cut to her point of view, Izuku? She said in a very questioning tone. She just walked over to there and see who it was. She turned around to the corner to see Izuku hiding around the corner. Izuku! She said, hugging him in a tight embrace. As Izuku just stood there and he was forced to take it. As Izuku just embraced it and hugged her back. Through the years, with Izuku and Nejire both grown a really big relationship. So Izuku and Nejire, you can count them as like siblings or something like that. Or you can mistake them as boyfriend and girlfriend. As Mina just asked Izuku, Izuku, do you know her? As Izuku replied saying, yes, I do. She was in my primary school, Izuku said. As Nejire just hugged him tighter, saying, who are you? She said in a very weird tone. Oh, I'm one of Izuku's friends. We just met today, she said. Through those 2 hours, Nejire was showing Izuku around the school, as Izuku would have gotten a rough understanding where everything is, as Izuku would have just sat there to eat his lunch with Nejire, Hado, as Mina and Kaminari would have come to join them because they went to the cafeteria to grab something to eat. As through those couple of minutes through that, 2 familiar faces came walking up to Nejire and Izuku. The 2 familiar faces just stood there and say, yo, Hado, what's good? The blonde-haired youth said in a very strong smile on his face. Resembling All Might, you could, accidentally, mistake him for his son. Hi Mirio, hi Tamaki, Nejire said in a very cheerful tone. What's up? She said. As Mirio and Tamaki just both explained that she wandered off randomly and they couldn't find her. So we're just wondering where you were exactly. Oh yeah, sorry, Nejire said. I'm hanging around with one of my friends who I've known since I was 6. He saved me from a bunch of bullies. A lot, actually. Wait, really? Mirio said. How cool. So what's your quirk? Mirio said. It's full counter, Izuku said, as he stuttered on his words, almost accidentally slipping out black flames. Or, you guys the viewers know, is assault mode, basically. As Mirio saw Izuku's facial features change the moment he mentioned his quirk, as Mirio just apologized, stating that if it's a touchy subject, he apologizes. No, it's fine. It's fine, Mirio. I don't see much point in wondering why you want to know it so bad, Izuku said, stuttering on his words. As the final bell rang to tell everyone to go back to their classrooms, as Izuku and Mirio and Najiri both walked to their classrooms, as Mirio both said goodbye, as they both arrived to their class. As we do a time skip for the next couple of years, as Izuku was in his final year of junior high before he had to go to middle school. Through the years, Izuku would have talked to Nejire a lot more, but since Izuku got to his 2nd year, he would have not seen her as much because she will be in middle school in her 1st year. But since Izuku's in his last year, she will be in her 2nd year by now, as Izuku would have been sat there with Mina Ashido and Kaminari both talking to each other about random stuff, as the teacher would have walked in with some altitude tests, telling everyone to sign where their middle school is going to be, as everyone put down their same middle school as lacking canon. But the only thing they'll be changing here, Izuku will be going to a different middle school than Nejire, Mina, and Kaminari, as they all would sign their papers, as the teacher would have just dismissed them for the day. As Izuku was just walking down an alleyway, as he noticed 2 people getting cornered into an alleyway, as Izuku would have been curious by this, as he would have followed it, but still being hesitant to it because he was still being followed by pro heroes, so he still used this to his advantage. The moment Izuku cut the corner, the pro heroes that was following Mirko saw this, as she jumped in legs first, as she used her thick thighs that save lives to kick the villains' heads through the wall, leaving them unconscious, as Mirko would have walked up to the young girl asking her if she was alright, as this young girl would have said she would have been okay, but her leg might have been a little bit bad and bruised, as Mirako would have told Izuku to be safe and just go straight home from here, as Mirako just grabbed the girl and jumped off to the nearest hospital to make sure it wasn't permanently damaged, as Mirako would have arrived at the hospital to drop her off, as her first instinct was to go back to Izuku, which she did so, as we cut to Izuku's point of view. As Izuku was walking home, he saw... I'm taking the piss. He just walked straight home from here. As Izuku arrived home, as he saw his mother talking to someone in a dark... It looked like a tracksuit, but it was his zero wear. As Izuku would have walked up to them and asking him what was wrong, as Inko would have replied saying, Izuku, I need to talk with you a little bit, she said, as Inko would have just blurted out saying, me and Eraserhead have been talking for a long while, and we've come to the conclusion that we really like each other, she said, and I hope you accept it. As Izuku just smiled and hugged his mother, saying that he's happy for her happiness, he said, as Shoka would have walked up to him and put his hand on Izuku's head, saying, I hope I can be a really good father figure for you, Izuku, he said. Through that day, Izuku and Aizawa just sat there watching TV for the rest of the day, as we cut back to the next day when Izuku wakes up from his dream. He keeps on having the same dream every single night, this dream being with All For One, as we cut to Izuku's dreamscape. Young Midoriya, use my power, you godforsaken, worthless child, he said, speaking to Izuku. You know you couldn't save him. You're so weak, worthless. You shouldn't have had that power to yourself. I should have just killed your mother, he said, as this made Izuku tear up and shut out of his bed, as Izuku woke up in a cold sweat, also crying. God damn it! Izuku shouted at the top of his lungs, this catching the eye of Aizawa and Inko, with Inko running into the room asking if Izuku was alright, as Izuku would just stare at her saying, Am I worthless, Mom? Izuku said, as Inko would have replied saying, No, you're not worthless, Inko said, as Shoka would have walked into the room and just sat next to Izuku, saying that everything will be okay. If it's just a bad dream, I'll sit here and make sure everything's okay, Shota said, as this rare occurrence became less and less occurrent for the next couple of months before Izuku would go into middle school. The moment Izuku would have gone to middle school, however, he would have saw Bakugo, as this would have set something off with him, but he still didn't know what it was, as Bakugo would have walked past Izuku, shoulder tapping him, and this had quietly annoyed Izuku, but not to the point his mark appeared, as Izuku was walking to his classroom trying to find it, as he finally found it after 2 minutes of searching. It was on the second floor. As Izuku found it and walked in, he saw Bakugo with his feet on the desk, sitting back, and just saying under his breath, I'm going to be the best one in this goddamn class. I'm going to show everyone who is the boss first day here. As Izuku just went to go sit down in his desk. A couple of minutes later, however, the teacher walked into the classroom, telling all of the students what they would be doing today and doing a roll call for the people's names. As the moment they got around to Izuku, however, Bakugo just stood up and said, Deku? Bakugo shouted in a furious tone, as the teacher just said, Bakugo Katsuki, sit back down, the teacher shouted, as Bakugo just straight up ignored him, as Bakugo ran to Izuku trying to tackle him with an explosion. You damn nerd! Get here! When did I tell you so you can leave me? Bakugo shouted, as the teacher finally had enough, as he used his stretchy arms quirk. I seriously don't know what the original teacher's quirk was in canon, so I'm just making this up as I go along, as the teacher would have wrapped his arms around Bakugo, pulling him back, but Bakugo let out an explosion at Izuku. Izuku didn't have anything to full counter it with, so Izuku just had it on full blast. As he took the explosion, was sent into a wall, as infuriated Izuku as his mark started to appear. Now this is the part, as Izuku started to leak out tons and tons of bloodlust towards Bakugo, as Bakugo started to collapse due to the amounts of pure bloodlusted pressure Izuku was leaking out, as Izuku's eye started to twitch black and started to go darker and darker and darker, as Bakugo was just clean out, passed out, as most of the students around here were terrified of what Izuku's powers would be, as they all decided to separate themselves from him from then on. I'd like to thank you, Legends, for sticking all the way to the end. As for people who stuck all the way to the end of this video who are watching on the premiere, you guys get a special treat. For people who haven't joined the Discord server yet, I've started to actually put little sneak peeks of the new videos in my Discord server. If you guys would actually like to go watch it personally, I post around about 1 to 2 minute little audio clips on there, little sneak peeks of the new videos. So I thank you guys so much for indulging yourself in this part, and I'll see you all later. Peace.